welcome. So in your upcoming practicum, you're all going to be presenting your own clinical cases. The big part of the work. And today I'm going to model exactly how to do that by unpacking a real case. We're going to use a really unique lens, blending analytical psychology with family systems theory to see how we can help transform a family's entire world.
All right, it's time to move from the textbook to the deeply personal. I want you to think about this case we're diving into like it's a living graphic novel. We're not just going to observe the story from a distance. No. We're going to get in there and analyze the hidden panels, the unspoken dialogue that's really shaping this family's reality. And at the heart of it all, a teenager named Tammy, and believe me, she's at a breaking point.
So where do we start? Well, every case presentation begins with the fundamentals. Who are the key players involved, and what's the crisis that brought them through our door? This is basically the opening scene of our story.
Okay, let's meet our central figures. First, we have Tammy. She's 16. Her father, Mike, is 45, and her mother, Susan, is 43. Now, on the surface, they look like they have it all figured out, right? A comfortable home, nice suburban neighborhood. But just beneath that polished exterior, a school counselor started to notice the cracks, and that's why they were sent to us.
And here's the thing. The referral might have been about Tammy's behavior, but that wasn't the real issue. It was the entire family system. It was caught in this sticky web of chronic, unspoken anxiety. You can almost picture it, this tangled mess of chaotic energy where absolutely no one feels seen or heard, and real communication, that is completely broken down.
Now, to really get what's happening here, we have to look beneath the surface. We have to peer into those powerful, unseen currents of the family's unconscious, because that is where the real story is written.
The first really key concept here is something Carl Jung called participation mystique. So what does that mean? Well, it's this unconscious state of identity where the lines between family members just blur. There's no distinct I anymore. There's only this collective anxious we. And this creates what we call a fusional complex, a state of total emotional enmeshment where your own individuality just gets lost in the sauce.
So how in the world does this fusion even happen? Well, the primary engine driving it is a mechanism called projective identification. This is what happens when a parent can't stand a part of their own psyche, their unlived life, their deepest anxieties, their shadow, and so unconsciously, they project it right onto one of their kids.
And this image, this perfectly captures the dynamic in Tammy's family. You can see it right there. Mike, the father, is casting this literal dark shadow that just envelops his daughter. Tammy has become the vessel for all of his repressed emotions and anxieties, and she's the one acting them out for the whole family. She is literally carrying his unlived life on her shoulders.
The great family systems pioneer Murray Bowen had a brilliant, if maybe a little clunky, term for this state, the Undifferentiated Family Ego Mass. It's a mouthful, I know, but picture it like an emotional vortex. Anxiety isn't just felt by one person, it spreads like a virus through this shared ego, and it infects everyone.
Okay, so the family is stuck. They are caught in this toxic pattern. How do we help them break free? Well, the goal of therapy is to guide them away from this fusion and toward what we call differentiation. That's a much healthier, more authentic way of relating to one another.
This chart really lays out the path forward, doesn't it? The goal is to move from what we'd call a pseudo-self, emotionally fused, totally reactive to what the group wants, to a solid self. And a solid self, that's someone who is emotionally separate, who acts from their own core principles, and, this is crucial, helps to lower the anxiety in the whole family system. Self-differentiation is the antidote. It's the superpower here. It's the ability to say, I think, and I feel, and to actually know the difference between the two. To hold your ground, your I position, calmly, even when the family's emotional hurricane is raging all around you. This is the interpersonal version of Jung's great work, individuation.
And here's the amazing thing. The person who achieves this differentiation becomes this incredible stabilizing force for everyone else. They literally act as a circuit breaker. The family's anxious energy can still swirl around, sure, but it no longer short-circuits the entire system. And why? Because one person is grounded, centered, and holding their own light.
Okay, so that's the goal. But how do we actually facilitate this transformation? What does it look like in the therapy room? This next section is all about the specific interventions we used to help this family untangle itself.
All right, 3 key steps. First, we guide Mike to metabolize his projections. Basically, to take back that heavy shadow he cast onto Tammy and to own his own feelings.
Second, each family member practices taking an I position, learning to act from their core beliefs, not just reacting to emotional pressure. And finally, they learn to practice leveling. That's just communicating directly, honestly, without blaming or trying to pull other people into a conflict.
Now, when these steps are successful, something really incredible happens. The family doesn't just go back to some boring baseline. No, they actually have the potential to achieve a new optimal state of being together. And we call this state family flow. Now, if you're familiar with the famous work on flow states, this is the family version. It's this dynamic, beautiful balance. It's that sweet spot right between individual freedom and the family's need for connection and a shared sense of purpose.
And the transformation, it's just profound. Remember that web of tangled, chaotic lines from the beginning of the presentation? Well, it morphs into this: a flock of birds in graceful, coordinated flight. See how each bird is separate, totally individual, yet they all move together as one? This is family flow made visible.
And the rules that make this happen are beautifully simple. First, there's separation. Each person maintains their own space. They avoid collisions. Second, alignment. They share a common direction, a purpose. And third, cohesion. They move together with a unified mission. And see, it's not about control at all. It's about emergent harmony.
So the prognosis for Tammy's family is very, very positive. They've learned how to function as a healthy unit again, and not just one that tolerates individuality, but one that actively supports the unique growth and journey of every single member. Look, this case study is so much more than just an academic exercise for a grade. This lens of fusion versus flow, it isn't just for our clients. It's an incredibly powerful tool we can and should use for our own self-reflection.
And that brings me to the final question I want to leave with all of you, especially as you prepare your own case presentations. I really encourage you to take a look at your own family systems. Ask yourself, could your family, could you, move from a state of unconscious fusion to one of conscious, intentional flow? That's something to think about.